going to introduce CJ as we speak. So CJ, is in San Diego's office. So for sure, I don't know, maybe he was surfing until now. Well, I don't know exactly what time it is there. He will share with us. So he was one of the first, if not the first Minder to join the Mindera team and office there, which is great. He loves to cook, because his in mind is like programming. Deploy the beef, something like that. And that's pretty much where he is. So he has a funny name on Slack. So when I was texting him, his name and his friends call him Programmer Papi. Maybe he can just share a little bit on that. When he's not programming, he's exercising plants and herbs, he's planting. So he's also a lover of that. I'm going to bring now CJ to the stage. Daniel, can you help me? CJ, you're saving the thing now here, okay? Thank you so much. So we are going to fix Irina on the backstage, Irina presentation, and you can just take the stage and do your magic. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy, have fun. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Pedro, for that introduction. And most importantly, thank you all for being with us here today. This is Mindera's International Virtual Open Day, and it's my pleasure to be speaking with you today. So as Pedro mentioned, my name is Charles Johnson, aka CJ, or Programmer Papi. And it is my esteemed pleasure to present actual verification, which is Mindera's approach to ID verification. So diving off into that, and I'll share my screen here in just a moment, let's talk about what does it mean to validate an ID? What does it mean to validate a customer? Prior to 2020, the world was perfectly okay with, hey, give me your username and password. And oh, by the way, maybe a little two-factor authentication, maybe. But after being in a year of lockdown and folks are not sitting still, we still need to sign up for new bank accounts. We need to purchase vehicles. It has become that much more prevalent to really understand if the user is who they say they are. So what actual verification aims to convey is that give me your driver's license and let me take a picture of your selfie. Then on the back end, I can then do some data analysis to understand, one, is that ID real? Were you who you say you are based on that selfie? And you'll see in the selfie phase, we ask you to smile, maybe even blink. And then on top of that, we also do some back-end reconnaissance with banks, home loans, cellular or mobile carriers, just to get additional data points so that we can understand if you are who you say you are. So ultimately what we're attempting to do here is provide businesses with a better means of authenticating an individual. Now, prior to 2020, 2019, you've likely, if you've signed up for Airbnb or maybe even a Bitcoin wallet, you've likely seen a process similar to this, whether it was automated or whether it was managed by a human with human interaction. This process has existed. So I won't say we're the first to market, but given, again, the events of 2020, there's just been an increased amount of interest in an application such as this. So we here at Mindera, we have some partners that we work with that have helped us build out an SDK. They've worked on the back end, and now we have a process by which we can allow customers to transact and understand if they are who they say they are. So I'm going to share my screen here, and what you're going to see, and I'll have to move this out the way so that we don't get the dual. All right. So what you're looking at here is on my left screen, on the left of my screen here is the desktop, or what we prefer to call the operator. And on the right, we have my phone. So I want to guide you through this, but in order to guide you through this, I need to do a little bit of setup here. So first, we're going to go through this process as in person. While I did just go over being remote and understanding that remote being able to validate someone remotely is important, I'm gonna give you a small little statistic here. last time I checked, which was about early 2019, late 2018, more than 5% of vehicles sold in the United States are sold using a synthetic or fake ID. I know, I know. You thought that fake IDs stopped being used once we got out of college, right? After you were able to get into that party that you needed, that you wanted to get to, you stopped using them. That is so not the case. And if you think about 5% and you think about the average cost of a vehicle, that's a lot of money going out the door. So I'm going to put us into the scenario of two actors here. There's the loan officer, and then there's the customer. I, the customer, am coming to a bank in order to get a loan. So the bank has a resource or an asset that I would like to attain, and the bank would like to validate that I am truly who I said I am. So let's walk through this, right? If I am the customer and I arrive there and I arrive at the bank and the loan officer says, "Sir, I need to validate, I need some information from you. I know you filled out that application, but I need a copy of your driver's license." Well, let's be honest. Is that validation? No. What they're doing is they're taking my driver's license and they're going to the copy machine and making a copy just so that they can keep records. That's it, purely record keeping. Xerox is not doing any validation. And the other part of that, handing one person my ID, that ID could have now talked to or been handed to 5 or 6 other individuals before it actually got to the copy machine. So there's a little bit of a privacy concern there because you don't know where your information is going. So with this tool allowed the customer to handle that part of the process just on their own device. So what I'm going to do here is enter my phone number and send myself a message. So if I'm the customer, the loan officer is going to ask, "Okay, sir, what's your phone number?" He gets the information and then they send that over to me. I was like, "Oh, don't let me down." All right, now diving off into this, now that I have a text message, and as you can see here on my phone on the right-hand portion of my screen, I'm going to dive into the process of validation. So as you see here, I'm given a consent form, and I can go ahead and once I agree to the consent form, now I'm off to the races. All right, so I'm going to use my ID card for the purpose of this demo. And so I arrive here, and the first thing it's asking me is to insert my driver's license underneath. So once I launch the camera, let's go for it. And we've also given some users some other handy tips like no glare, hold it steady, keep in a well-lit area. So now let's launch. Okay. And once I field guide window, once I hovered it over there, as you noticed, it automatically captured that for me. I didn't have to tell the camera or press a button on the camera. And quite honestly, my hands are a little shaky right now, so it probably wouldn't work best if I did it anyway. Next is asking for the back of the ID. So let me get my ID ready. I'm going to launch the camera once more. And we're going to hover over. And again, I didn't even have to get the placeholder aligned. The moment it saw it, it just immediately captured it. So now let's go to the last portion here. And this is probably my favorite, the selfie portion. I'll try not to be vain for the audience. And there we have it. So that quickly, I was able to go through this entire process. And even though I'm speaking through it, you can see the snaps are really quick and the customer gets that immediate feedback. Now that I have everything here, let's go ahead and launch this. So I'm going to click yes, looks good. And this is going to now send all this information to the back end for processing. And once the customer's information has been processed, the customer can now go away. All that is success, you have been confirmed. And now as the loan officer, I now have some information that I can now take action on. So as you can see, here's some just basic information that was on the ID, some information about what type of ID it was, a Class C, the ID number. But this is the meat of it all. Deploy the beef. Here's the portion that the loan officer is really going to be interested in, because they want to understand what's the probability of you being who you say you are. And so that number, that value is exercised here. So we have 880 out of 1,000. It's pretty safe to say I am who I say I am, or at least I think I am who I say. All jokes aside. But this is as you can see here, this is a quick walkthrough of what it's like to give the customer the ability to manage this sort of transaction on their own. And the business is still able to get the information that they're looking for. The customer can now have a better sense of privacy, because we didn't just extol give their ID and pass it around the office to see who, hey, do you know this person? I don't. Here, you know them? On the way to the copy machine. This is all handled on your own device. And mind you, as we're transacting through this, none of this information from your images is ever sent back to the server until the process has been completed. So because I was so quick, because I was able to just wince right through that, I didn't even get the opportunity to talk about the technology that we have underlying and what's making this all go. So this next pass through, I'm going to walk through this as if I were doing this from an automated perspective. Because again, if you've signed up for a Bitcoin wallet or any other Airbnb, you've walked through this process, but there was not an operator on the other side. That's what you get with live demos, notifications. But if you've done this online in the automated fashion, you've likely noticed there's no one on the other side of this. It's purely done by either I can invoke this with a QR code, or again, I may be the individual typing in my phone number. So let's do the automated process. And as we walk through the automated process, I can give you a little bit more of the deets about how this is being managed. So here, as I wave over the QR code, I'm immediately greeted with a notification to launch my browser. Now, one thing I want to call out here is the moment I click agree, you're going to see an instantaneous update to the desktop screen. The desktop screen is synchronized with the backend server using WebSockets. Now, we do this so that the desktop operator can be just about anywhere in the world, and they can send this session to a user via email, text message, or they can even just be screen sharing and say, hey, here's the QR code. If you can see the QR code on screen, wave your camera in front of it and go for it. So while the original example was the loan officer right there in person, this could happen anywhere. And as you see here through my process, I was able to just invoke this process without actually typing in my phone number. So it can be done self-serve. Now, as I hit the ID, as I begin to transact and interact with the service, we're constantly updating the desktop. Now, you may say, if you're familiar with WebSockets, you're saying, well, that may have an issue with scale, right? Because I have a WebSocket, that means I have a TCP connection that always needs to remain open. And you're right. It does make a consideration of how do we scale that? But here's what we're doing that's quite unique. The mobile device is only interacting with the REST API. The desktop is interacting with the API via the socket. So that gives us the opportunity, if we want to treat this as self-service or headless, for instance, we don't have to worry about a socket and keeping a connection open. We simply need to generate the handoff session and allow the mobile device to begin to transact. And so again, because we went through it so quickly, I'll just go through it here for the second pass. Fill the window. And I'm not sure if we showed that before, but we do give users some guides and some information. The latest version of the SDK, and I don't have a mask here to try this out, but the latest version of the SDK will recognize if you're wearing a mask, it will say, please remove the mask. And that wasn't something that we had to consider 2019, but again, 2020, it's a new world. All right, let's go for capturing the back here. I'm always amazed at how quickly it's able to pick that up. And again, the selfie portion. I'll try not to be vain. Let me make sure my hair is straight. It has to tell me to stop smiling because I just can't help myself. I'm talking about technology that I love. And again, let's go for it. Let's go ahead and submit this. All right. Okay. And here we are again, 880. Now, if you're thinking that I have manufactured this and I have I have this statically set, I promise you, this is purely demo, and I was crossing my fingers here just to make sure that this did come back with a valid probability, as opposed to, oh, you're not who you say you are. But this is an example of walking through the process if you are doing so in an automated fashion. So this program right now is actual verification right now. As I said, you're looking at the technology preview. And in this technology preview, I was able to, we were just showcasing what's possible and what we're able to complete. The version of this application that's in pilot right now, that version has OAuth security. It has connections to multiple, it has hooks for multiple, or I should say adapters for multiple SMS providers. It has an adapter for multiple OAuth providers. So we do work with Okta and we do work with Auth0 in order to manage users for a multi-tenancy scenario. And of course, the user interface and experience is a lot different from this because it's a customer facing application. So this is, I couldn't be happier. And as you can tell, like, I just can't stop smiling because this has been my baby and I've been working on this for quite some time. And it's been my esteemed pleasure to walk you through what it's like with, what it's like operating Mindera's, excuse me, actual verification. Uh-oh. Here we go. All right, there we are. And with that, I want to conclude and offer anyone who would like to ask any questions or discuss the technology, keeping in mind that there's so much that I could discuss because it is a licensed application, but I can get into as much as possible. And you can join me at the QA booth or Q&A booth. Thank you again, and it was my pleasure.
It was great, CJ. Do you do this professionally, like this type of things? Very good, very good.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank you. The programmer Papi with us. That was great.